Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Made to Order a la Orden. I'm Chef Z, and on today's episode of Cuba Trip Tips, we're going to be talking all about the money. So, all about the coin, all about the change, all that stuff that you guys want to know. So, what's the exchange rate? What's the situation with the money? Where to change the money? How does it work? So, pretty much, we're going to get into the nitty gritty just about the money. So, keep watching if you want to learn all about this. Okay, so we're just going to jump right into the money situation in Cuba. In Cuba, there are two different types of currencies. You have CUP and CUC. And CUP is the currency that all the locals use, and CUC is going to be the currency that you use, which is also called pesos convertible. And CUP, the ones that the locals use, that's actually called moneda nacional. Now, you want to pay attention to this because CUP, like, it's a lot less than the CUC, and so you want to make sure that, when people give you change, that they're giving you the right currencies, because there are two different currencies. For the most part, they do. It hardly ever happens, but you also have to keep in mind that when you go to certain restaurants, sometimes they only take CUP. So if you don't have any CUP, then, just gonna have to find somewhere else to eat. All right, now again, I've mentioned in some of my other videos that if you're American or if you have an American bank account, your credit cards and your debit cards will not work. I'm gonna repeat that because let that thing sink in. If you have an American bank account or American debit card or whatever have you, your credit cards and your debit cards will not work. So what does that mean? It means that you have to carry a lot of cash with you. And I was doing a lot of research for my trip, and I encourage you guys to do the same thing. And what I ended up doing was I actually took my American money, converted it to Canadian money first while I was in Miami. And then when I landed in Varadero, I converted my Canadian money to Cuban money. And the reason that I did that is that if you convert American money directly into Cuban money, sometimes they charge you a 15% interest commission on top of the exchange rate. So, in translation, that's a lot of your money that just disappeared and like pretty much went nowhere. So I just kind of did the math, and I realized that if I converted it first to Canadian and then to Cuban, I lost a lot. I mean, you're still going to lose some because of the double conversion. You just lose a lot less than doing that 15% plus the conversion rate. It was a little nuts, I'm not going to lie. Now, you guys are probably wondering, where do I change my money from American, Canadian, or Euro? Because that's another thing you can do depending on what the exchange rate is. You can convert it from American to Euro. So yeah, you guys are probably wondering, like, how do I change my money to Cuban money? And that's also fairly simple. Again, the rates change daily, so you do want to be on top of that. And the best places to change your money is at the airport or the hotels, keeping in mind that the hotels have different rates. For me personally, I found that when I was in Havana, Hotel Nacional gave me the best rates. And when I was in Varadero, my hotel there also gave me the best rate. And interestingly enough, this is a bonus. I had actually run out of cash. Not what you want to do. I had run out of Canadian cash on like my last 2 days while I was in Cuba. And luckily I was in Varadero. And what I found was that I did have some pocket American money, and they actually did not charge me that 15% commission. So that was awesome. But at the same time, in contrary, when I was in Havana Vieja, like just like the week prior, even though I was changing Canadian money, they actually wanted to charge me a 10% like commission fee. And I was not doing that. So again, you do want to stay on top of that. So yeah, so I do have my phone right here because I took some notes for you guys. Wanted to make sure I did not miss anything. Oh, okay. So right here, I wrote it down. Another place where you can actually exchange your money is at the bank. I don't recommend doing this because there's almost always a really long line at the bank. But if you didn't want to change your money at the hotel because the rates were too crazy or the commission was too crazy and you needed cash right there, the bank is also another option. What else? Oh, okay. So, big thing. And this is, you would think this is common sense, but this was actually a mistake that a lot of people make. And so I just want to kind of put it out there. When you're setting a budget for this trip, set your budget after the conversion rate. Like, for example, if you're like, okay, I just want to spend $50 a day, like figure out like, okay, $50 a day in say in Cuban money, not American money, because 50 American is not going to equal 50 say. So you don't, if you're telling yourself 50 American, by the time you get there it's actually going to be like 30, 35, and you're like $15 under your budget. And in case you guys are wondering, so I was there for about 3 weeks, and I would say if you want to travel Cuba comfortably, I would budget for about $100 a day. And that's after the conversion. So I know Havana is not as cheap as people make it seem. At least Havana is not. Havana is actually fairly expensive. It's kind of comparable to New York, which is a little insane, but it is. I would say, at the time when I was there in October, 200 Canadian kind of gave me about 145, 148 say. And so if you want to travel comfortably and it's just you, I would say, budget for about 100 sose a day. For a couple, my boyfriend and I, we did that about 120 a day, and we were really comfortable. Now, mind you, that's in Havana. When we went to some of the other cities like Baracoa and Trinidad, our budget was way lower. Like we kind of got by, just he and I, on, I want to say maybe like 50, 60, $70. And that's with us going to museums, going out to eat, going out at night, watching shows and stuff. But again, like, to each his own, how you want to travel. So you budget, according to how you want to travel and the things that you want to do. So yeah, that's my advice to you. And that's pretty much it for the money. Thank you so much for watching Made to Order a la Orden. I'm Chef Z, and be sure to come back next week when I have another video on Cuba trip tips. And also be sure to come back when I have my cooking videos. And so I got some pretty cool things lined up. And don't forget to like and subscribe.